I asked the downtown footbeat sergeant. He was down the area. I called him on his cell phone and I asked him if he would mind walking down the pier and taking a look at the seal. I wanted to see what the situation really was, because the report was the poor thing's dying from a fishing line around its neck. And here I am calling it a seal, when in fact it's a sea lion. Mm-hmm. But Sergeant Wiedern answered the phone. He went down there, looked at the poor guy, and called me and said it was pretty sad. It was dying. It was choking to death with this fishing line around his neck, and he wasn't really sure what to do. But a crowd had gathered. About that time, two great guys come in. The two great cops come in. A guy named Trevor Jackson and Brett Gillum. And they were actually booking a prisoner, and they came in to get the booking approved. And I asked Brett Gillum, "Hey, you guys want to help me catch a sea lion? I need someone that's done this before." And to my surprise, Brett Gillum tells me that he's done that. He tells, "Yeah, I've done that before. I caught one with a blanket with the lifeguards that wandered up on the highway a couple months ago." So I asked if they'd help me, and they both said sure. So we began looking for the dog snare. Took us a while to find one of those. We got a blanket, some gloves and flashlights, and jumped in the Suburban, and I drove him down to the berm line. And there's a crowd, and there's poor Sparky, the sea lion, that's struggling with this fishing line around its neck, and it was pretty sad. It had cut it very deep in its throat, and it was dying. As we tried to get close to him, he would bite at us and snap at us and run back to the water. But he was so fatigued he wouldn't swim out to sea. He would just kind of flop in the white water and then work his way back up and just collapse. I found, as we tried to get closer to him, he didn't trust us, but I found as I shined my bright light on him, he enjoyed the warmth of the light, and he would roll over on his back almost like a dog would roll over, and he'd scratch his stomach. So he'd bask in the light. I guess the warmth must have felt good. So we devised a plan to kind of keep him under the flashlight. We would snag him with the dog snare, hold on to him while the two officers, Brett and Trevor, would tackle him with the blanket. So they knew they were going to get wet, so they stripped down to T-shirts and took their guns off and loaded everything into the car. And we were successful grabbing the guy with the snare, and he started fighting us and biting at us. And they ran up behind with the blanket and jumped on him. And we wrestled him to the ground. And the poor Trevor and poor Officer Jackson and Officer Gillum getting hit by the whitewater as they're holding on to this guy. We were able to use a seatbelt cutter and cut away this fishing line and get it from around its neck. And after actually about a minute of fighting with the little guy, he surrendered and just laid still. He was tired. And then now we had to figure out how to get off him without getting bitten. So we held the snare, and they jumped off, released the snare, and he took off for the water and swam out. Everybody cheered. We thought everything was going to be good, and then apparently the next day he came back on shore still struggling with the injury, but we got it off. And kudos to those kind of guys. That right. There's not many cops at midnight really want to go in the ocean, but these guys were great. They took the challenge, and they deserve the credit with this one. Well, my advice is to call them, which is exactly why I wanted to do something, because people were doing just that. They were calling us, asking us to help this thing, and this poor guy. And it's frustrating when in my shoes, when I couldn't get any answers from anybody. And it was a great feeling to go down there and take care of the guy and get it done. And at least I feel like we provided a service that night. So I tell you to call us. We'll get the right people out there. If we can't get a hold of somebody, we'll call Trevor Jackson and Brett Gillum.